What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We're coming back for UFC 296, the last card of 2023. It's been a pretty dope ride. I started my channel at the beginning of the year, and we've had, I don't know, what is it, like 40-something cards now? Something wild like that. 509 total UFC fights, 340 wins, just about 170 losses, just about a 65% win rate, and we're kind of slowly bringing that main event prediction rate right back up. It was really good for a while, then really shit, and it's kind of getting a little bit better now. But star prospect of the night, in my opinion, it's weird saying this, it's a former champion, actually, of the UFC. Cody Garbrandt. He isn't ranked. He's fighting Brian Kelleher. He's kind of building himself back up into the bantamweight division, and I'm actually glad that they're taking that build back the right way. They're doing it smart. It's a good approach. The show stealer, this should be obvious. Pantoja versus Royval 2. I mean, just watch both of their fights against anybody, and now they're going to be fighting each other again, and then knowing how that first fight went and how crazy it just was off rip, yeah, no, this is the show stealer for sure. And the fighter that's in the oven is Colby Covington. This is probably his last shot at a title, despite his popularity, despite how good he is on the mic. He needs to get a win here, and honestly, I kind of want him to, even though I don't think he will. Spoiler alert for my late pick, but I do want him to get the win here because he's just the most popular welterweight, flat out. First fight of the night, though, Martin Buday taking on Shamil Gaziev. This is a hard fight to pick for me because even though Shamil Gaziev is 11-0 and he's debuting after his Contender Series fight where he got a submission in the first round, he's fat as shit, and Martin Buday is actually already tested in the UFC. 13-1 as well, so he's like damn near undefeated. It's honestly a toss-up for me at the moment. Martin Buday is good at sticking out that jab. He's going to have better cardio because he's just more tested in the octagon. I mean, this is like his 5th fight in the UFC, and he hasn't lost yet. I think I'm going to side with Buday, but this is going to be close, man. Moving on up the card, Andre Fili taking on... I'm sorry, I need to re-click the... Lucas Almeida. Oh, yeah, this guy. I've honestly always been a huge fan of Andre Fili. I always thought Lucas Almeida was kind of overrated. He comes into the UFC, gets a win over Michael Trizano, which was impressive, but it was just a weird fight, and then he loses to Pat Sabatini. I'm going to trust Andre Fili. He's just one of those fighters at featherweight where if you don't have, I don't know, like a specialty, like you're not a supreme grappler, or you're not way better than him on the feet, he's probably going to figure you out. He's probably going to find a way to knock you out or mix in the takedowns because he's like a jack of all trades. He's not too great at anything, but he's really good at a lot of things. Moving on up the card, Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Cody Durden. This is another hard match. Honestly, the first 3 fights are all competitive. Lives up to the card in general because it's a stacked-ass card. And honestly, rightfully so. It's the last one of the year. I'm going to side with Cody Durden because I've counted him out too many times on this win streak that he's been on. I didn't think that he was going to be able to beat, Michael Johnson at the beginning of the year. That was like one of the first fights that I predicted of the year. And I could just tell, like, he set the tone for the rest of the year. I think I picked against him again after that, and he got another win. So I'm going to have to side with Cody Durden. Tagir is like the runt of the Khabib squad. He's just not that good. He's a striker as well. So, yeah, no, I'm going to trust Cody Durden's pace and his grappling. Moving on, up the card. Casey O'Neill taking on Ariane Lipski in the flyweight division. Casey O'Neill is coming off of a loss that again, shocker, me not expecting things, and then they happen. I didn't expect her to get melted by, what is her name? I don't even remember her name, but she has like a typical Brazilian last name, and she had one good round against fucking Valentina Shevchenko. But like, point being, she lost to her, and she lost on the feet, and Casey O'Neill is a striker. Ariane Lipski is a striker as well, but she's not that good. I'm going Casey O'Neill. Then we have Cody Garbrandt, the fighter in the oven, taking on Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher is just mid. This is going to be like kind of a quick pick for this one, honestly. Brian Kelleher is mid. No offense if you end up watching this dude. And he has a weak chin. He's just been in too many fights. He has 14 losses, 24 wins. But like 14 losses is crazy if you don't have at least like 35 wins. And you're not some like vet that won a belt in your prime. Cody Garbrandt, of course, coming off of like a weird skid in the bantamweight division, but he is off of a win at least, and he has crazy knockout power. He's quick, he has better grappling too, if you really like break it down. Honestly, he's better everywhere, and even if Brian Kelleher was like fully in his prime, I think he would get smoked by Cody Garbrandt right now. So I'm going Cody. Moving on up the card, Irina Aldana taking on Karol Rosa. I'm going to side with Irina Aldana just because I feel like I've watched her fight a little bit more. I'm not going to lie, this is one of those fights. It's rare, but I feel like I've never really seen Karol Rosa fight. Oh, right. A split decision to Yana Santos. Yeah, nah, that's all I needed to see. That's all I needed to see. And lost to Norma Dumont, I mean, a lot of these women do. I'm going to side with Irina Aldana. I think she's going to win a clinch battle. It's going to be a boring decision. Up the card, Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby. And let me just add, no more boring-ass fights. I mean, really, the only one was kind of the two women's fights. No more of those after this. Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby. Alonzo Menifield coming off of a win. I don't remember who against. Let me check Topology real quick. He's coming off a win over Jimmy Crute. Right, and I did not expect that shit. I did not. It was a really, really good scrap. Jimmy Crute retired afterwards, which was wild. Dustin Jacoby also coming off of a win over Kennedy Nzechukwu. Knocked him out. He knocked out somebody else recently too. He's just been kind of on a tear, really utilizing his reach and like actually getting finishes for once. And I mean, I'm saying for once because I didn't really see him doing that for a while, at least if I remember correctly. So I gotta go Jacoby, probably getting a TKO here. Bryce Mitchell versus Josh Emmett moving on into the main card. This is one of my favorite fights on the card. I fucking love Bryce Mitchell. I love him even more after his like Jesus spiel and talking about fighting against the devil and all that and about the Maui fires. He's just woke. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. And he's also the best rapper in the UFC, which is crazy because he's a white dude from Arkansas. Josh Emmett is a terrible style matchup if we're actually talking about fighting here and me not fanboying out over Bryce Mitchell. It's a terrible, terrible matchup. Bryce has to get him on the ground and wet blanket him there and really wear on him and then try to use his striking after he wears on him, because if he just tries to like trade clean, Emmett's going to take his head off. I'm going to side with Bryce Mitchell because, again, I love him and I think momentum is a hell of a thing in sports, but this is a tough one. Moving on, again, Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. The old guard versus the new. And in a lot of ways, if you look on like Instagram comments about this fight, it's like the old fans, classic MMA fans, probably from like my generation, you know, like mid-20s type of people, not the OGs from Pride and shit. And then you have like the like really, really new age people. A lot of them seemingly learned about the UFC from Paddy Pimblett or something, because they just don't seem to understand Tony and like his personality, and they take a lot of the shit he was saying super seriously. It's just weird. I'm going to have to side with Paddy Pimblett in terms of like the actual fight, just because we all know that Tony is not the same Tony he used to be. He's 25-9 now, going on a 6-fight losing streak. It's like he's trying to be the first lightweight fighter to be on a 12-fight winning streak and then also get a 12-fight losing streak. Like, it's fucking crazy. And I mean, Tony Ferguson is the type of guy to do it, honestly. I want to see classic Tony back, but let's be real, man. It's probably going to be a Paddy Pimblett TKO or submission. Moving on up the card, the feature fight of the night, Shavkat Rakhmonov, 17-0, all finishes, versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, 17-6-1, the draw to Tyron Woodley in title fight, because Stephen Wonderboy has actually already been to the top of the division years back. He fought for the title twice, came up short both times. He's still the like puzzle that the welterweight division needs to figure out. He's still right there at the cusp of the top 5. He's ranked number 6. He's coming off of a great win over Kevin Holland in a hell of a fucking fight. But Shavkat is just that new breed, man. And honestly, he's a freak of nature. Like, he could go into any of the times for MMA, past, present, future, and he's going to be a menace. He's going to be a threat. He's well-rounded everywhere. Like I said, all finishes, which is ridiculous when you have 17 wins. And then just like no losses. I don't know, it's crazy. He knows that he needs to mix it up. He's not going to just stand with Wonderboy. That's the only way that Wonderboy wins. I'm going Shavkat. Co-main event now, Alejandro Pantoja taking on Brandon Royval in a rematch. I'm going to side with Pantoja. For one, I've always just been a fan of him. I always thought that he was going to get to the belt. I remember watching his fight with Figgy way back. I think it was like on a Max Holloway card or something like that. Maybe I'm tweaking. But I just remember watching them go to absolute war and thinking to myself that the winner of it was for sure going to win the belt, but the loser, despite having a harder climb up, they were going to make it there. And then, lo and behold, Alejandro Pantoja makes it to the fight with Brandon Moreno earlier this year. A lot of people are counting him out. Not me. I pick him, and boom, what do you know? He goes out there and he demolishes Brandon Moreno. I mean, it was a close fight, but like I also felt like he dominantly won it. I don't think Brandon Royval has enough for him. I don't think he's going to be able to be, catching him in any submissions. I mean, fuck, mark my words, but I just don't see it happening. The best chance he has at winning this is catching him in some wild shit on the feet. And I just feel like Pantoja is too smart. He knows that he needs to like represent Brazil right now. He's one of the few, if not the only one, I'm trying to think. Yeah, he might be the only Brazilian champion right now. And he really needs to hold on to that. He takes it super seriously. I watched the Embeddeds. I've seen some interviews with him the past couple of weeks. He takes his role as a champion seriously. I'm sure he was showing up to the trainings, grinding, everyone behind him. And there's just something about having that type of like communion and that sense of just a team. He's going to go in there, and I think it's going to be a tough match for Brandon Royval. I'm picking him by a submission. And then we have the main event of the night, the fight that I'm going to talk about the longest here. And honestly, just going to talk for a minute here, just because of the fact that this is the last card of the year. Like, for a minute, this will be the last that you guys hear from me, unless I post, some other type of video. I do have something planned for the end of the year, just kind of recapping the year, but I don't know for sure when that's going to come out. So for a minute, this will be the last that you guys hear from me, aside from the 296 recap. Leon Edwards is probably going to win this fight. If you really just break it down on paper, not looking at who they've competed against, but just looking at how they fight, Leon Edwards is way better on the feet. He's crisp. He has knockout power with his hands, his elbows, his legs, any limb of his body. Colby, on the other hand, has that like pressure boxing style. He will land a lot, but it's not going to be really doing much. It's kind of just like in your face. And if he catches you like clean, it's because he got lucky and he caught an angle or something. It's never really because he just technically on the feet knows how to set up some combos. That's a really, really big difference maker in a fight, where you know that both these fighters have championship level grappling. Colby obviously is just a way better wrestler. He knows how to use it better in the octagon. But you can't act like Leon doesn't know how to neutralize that wrestling. He fought the better of the two wrestlers. Like, this isn't debatable. If you go back, look at their fights. Yes, Colby did take him down, which I'm not arguing. I think it's so stupid they didn't give Colby that takedown. Kamaru was always able to just get right the fuck back up to his feet and reestablish where the fight was going to be going. I felt like a big part of why Colby didn't even try to wrestle in the first fight is because he knew that Kamaru was probably going to end up in the dominant positions. I am also just saying that he's the better wrestler because he smashed Colby's jaw in, and it was just two wrestlers boxing. I know it's not really like they were wrestling each other, but you get my point. I'm just kind of being an ass. But either way, Leon handled the better of the wrestlers, and he also, mounted Usman and like almost took his back or did take his back. It was just, it's not like he can't do that to Colby too. So in a fight like that, what they can do on the feet matters supremely, and Leon can just do so much more. And that's where I feel like it's just going to be a big problem for Colby. He's going to be kicking at his leg, teeping up the middle. I didn't trust Leon to do this against Usman earlier in the year, and I just feel stupid looking back because he really is just in his prime, looking crisp. And I think the only person that's going to be able to like really disrupt his title run right now is Khamzat if he ever comes back down to welterweight. And, that's going to be his toughest matchup for sure. But other than that, I think Leon just has this one in the bag. And I want to know what you guys think down below. Let me know if you guys want to hear like my betting prop picks and whatnot. I'm going to start posting those on TikTok in kind of short form content, just like these videos. Keep me posted, you guys. Let me know how you think about the content. Let me know what you feel about the fights. I'll catch y'all.